It's not just that you know, but also souls know what might happen. Souls are aware. In other words, we're all aware when we're going to die. We may not know it consciously, but we do know, right? So in that sense, I mean, it's not your responsibility either to prevent a happening or not, if that's something, in a sense, that we as souls agreed to the scenario happening, right?
Well, like I say, with them, they can even communicate with what we call the other side. But even at that, given their advanced technology, there are still forbidden questions.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid saying something here. Let's just say that with the death of my son, they helped me visit with him one time.
Sure.
And like I told you, there's questions unless you ever ask. It was, I knew if I go back 15 minutes, I knew where he was, all those locations. If I could go back 15 minutes, I could stop the accident from happening. All I had to do was delay his movement anywhere along that 15 minutes for just a minute or so, and I would alter the outcome. But once again, set break off. Here's our reality. Here you created that other parallel. And for some odd reason, it's not good to create that other parallel. And they know this. Mm-hmm. And also, it was pointed out that you cannot escape the reality of this time continuum that we find ourselves, because his death is reality to me in this time frame I find myself. The Second World War happened. I must return to the point from which I depart within that space-time. Uh-huh. I'm not going to remain in the other one. And a lot of people, like they said the other night, you'd stay there. No, because it was pointed out to me quite clear. And I can't explain this. I couldn't go and debate it scientifically. But it's a natural barrier, which is why when time travel, when we discovered in our future, we're not going to find evidence of it being left any place along the line because of that natural barrier. We may even see them. We may sense them. We may even be able to interact to a degree. But nothing associated with the future tied with the day we discover time travel is going to be left in any altered reality. They say, okay, time travel hasn't happened yet because we would have evidence of it. There won't be any evidence left. And there's a natural barrier there. Mm-hmm. The whole situation is we are a part of something greater, more vast, and we're on an adventure. And we're part of that adventure. Mm-hmm. And we all play certain parts into that. But just like when you brought it up about they are us, and I said, he's heard me say this, which is probably he got a grin on his face when you said that. But the whole situation is we look for the differences in the species, the 57. Look for the similarities. When we look for those similarities, we then begin to realize just how much we have in common. And eventually we come to the point of one thought. They are us. Because everything within the universe is interconnected. All species are interconnected. Mm-hmm. Anybody ever ask why the common denominator is humanoid, you would not expect to find that if there was not some type of galactic blueprint. You become spiritually enlightened by going through this life. Mm-hmm. Even those that we say are insane, on the other side they're not insane.
Maybe we could find out a little bit about the types of visitors that you've dealt with. Do you see them physically, or do you, are you actually sort of in an altered state, or are you able to see them in your mind? And do you communicate with them telepathically?
Oh, there's physical as you and I.
Okay.
And yes, it would be telepathic.
Mm-hmm.
Some could talk just like you and I.
Okay.
But you'll have a lot that they won't do that, and they'll just want to communicate with you. Mm-hmm. But there's one thing you have to keep in mind. This is what a lot of people overlook, and that's why it gets to be so hard to talk about. You're not just talking to them. They know, and they feel everything that you know and you feel. You go in, you feel what they feel. And see, some of these, we weren't real good guys. We use the term visitor.
Sure.
But they're treated like prisoners.
I understand.
And there is no law under protection to protect them.
Mm-hmm. Dan Gersh has talked about this as well.
In 1960, and I can provide you with the document, we have put together and formulated, NASA did, a book that they call Outer Space Law. It would not be until the 1970s that the question of the legal rights of an sentient being, not of this world, even came into play. Mm-hmm. And you know what those rights are? There aren't any.
Still, to this day, you're saying?
No more than what the rights would... A lab animal would have more rights than one of our visitors, and yet they are vastly superior to us in intellect, mm-hmm. and even in spirituality. Mm-hmm. They would permit themselves to be killed. Many of them would. Many of the species. Other than to do something that would cause us to get injured or killed. Hmm. And forgive me, but you know, this is what I'm trying to avoid.
I understand. Well, okay, so they, in a certain sense, would sacrifice themselves because they have a deeper understanding of what's really going on than we do.
Absolutely.
Okay. So you must be a very highly tuned spiritual being yourself in order to be able to communicate with various races from other planets the way you have, and to talk about it the way you do. And you know, that's really a gift. As you say, it's not something taught, it's something you come into this incarnation with.
Well, I like to think of myself, I want to be normal, if you understand what I'm saying.
Okay. Well, from, you know,
I know what you're saying.
Externally you appear like a normal person, and you've certainly held some very normal types of jobs, in addition to what you did, right? But you're also ultra normal, or, you know, you actually have used some of the parts of humanity that are good parts that are not used by the average man. Is that right?
Well, I hope so.
Okay, so that's a beautiful thing, and we're really happy to meet someone, you know, in person who's been doing this.
Well, with me, I think the one thing, let me see if I can say this and get it through real quick. When I was young, I played with children that other people couldn't see. To me, this was perfectly normal. And I knew about the imaginary friends and things of this sort, but this was different. And it was perfectly normal. They had even helped me